Have you ever felt confused by data literacy? You're not quite sure what it is, but you know you need to improve it? In this video, I'm going to take you through what data literacy is and then how you can improve it based on 5 different competencies that make up data literacy. I was talking to a colleague recently, my name's Chris, I'm a professional consultant and engineer. I was talking to a colleague recently about implementing a new project using cutting edge data techniques. I have a degree in computer science and I've kept up to date with the body of knowledge in data analytics and data literacy. And I was advising this colleague on how to improve his project with data, but he wasn't too familiar. He knew it was a good idea. I could see his mind thinking that he knew using data was a good idea, but he didn't know how to approach it. And if he'd improved his data literacy over the years that he'd been working, he was quite more senior than I am, then if he'd kept up with the body of knowledge of data, then he would have been able to really realize and be able to implement the benefits and not just listen to my explanation. So what I found is that even though the study of data and the study of information is well over 100 years old, a lot of people haven't kept up to date with the body of knowledge, even at a superficial level, and so don't understand when we want to share the benefits of data. So in this video, I want to take you through improving your data literacy, to look at the 5 key competencies, 5 areas that you can improve your literacy in, because if you're a professional trying to improve yourself like I am, having an understanding of data will really help drive your professional work going forward. So in the engineering consulting world where I come from, professionals are always seeking to improve, and hopefully this will give you a 5 competency approach where if you improve each of these 5 competencies, you can improve your data literacy. So what is data literacy? Data literacy is literacy is about being able to read the words in a book, improving your vocabulary, improving your sentence structure, your grammar. Data literacy is similar, but for data. So being able to read data. How do you summarize data? How do you interrogate data? Or how do you identify when the data might be incorrect? So that's what I found is something that needs to improve. But the 5 competencies to improve your data literacy are about understanding data collection, understanding data evaluation, understanding the management of data, understanding a conceptual framework that you can work within for your data, and understanding the application of your data. Now, I took this great graphic from ResearchGate that summarized this really well. So I'll leave a link to them in the description below, but you can see the graphic on the screen. And I've applied this myself when I was working as a data analyst for trying to improve airports. I used to try to squeeze more airplanes onto runways, and we used a data analysis approach to do that. So data collection, how you get the data and how you gather it in, what are the tools that you use to collect data? Because we used to have a saying when I did analytics that was garbage in, garbage out. So if your data collection isn't great, it doesn't matter what sort of analysis you do it, what sort of evaluation or what sort of management you do, what your framework is, or what application you're going to use it in. If you're not collecting great data, it's going to be a garbage outcome regardless. So understanding data collection, understanding where your data comes from, and the limitations of where your data comes from is the first competency I want to talk about in terms of improving your data literacy. So data collection, when you collect data, and in our case it was by, we used a radar system to collect data, but you could have done it by hand as well, simply with a stopwatch timing how the airplanes came into the airport. That was our data collection method, and there are some limitations on what that means. Usually it's a small sample size, and that limitation fed through the whole data process. So how we stored the data, how we evaluated and analyzed it. So the key for data collection is to understand the limitations. So if you're looking to improve your understanding of data collection, start thinking about, walk through, usually when I'm doing professional improvement, I like to walk through examples, walk through case studies of the application of whatever I'm trying to learn. And so to improve data collection, think about a data process that you've been through, think about a study or some sort of collection of data that you've been through, and think about, well, at the first collection stage where we collected the data, were there any limitations that could affect later stages of the data process? if you're interested in data process, hit like on this video because I'll go into more detail on that soon and YouTube will suggest it. So data collection is thinking about the limitations. So moving on then, if we were building a data process, the next step would be evaluation. So what sort of, how do we evaluate our data? How do we summarize our data? How do we do an analysis? How do we say how do we transform, rearrange our data or summarize our data so that it can make a decision, so that we can inform stakeholders of what we're doing? And from a professional approach, this is where you have some oversight into, well, now that you've understood the limitations from the collection, to think about how it's going to be evaluated. As a professional, I like to think about what is the outcome of our analysis? What is the goal or the hypothesis or the opinion that we're trying to that we're trying to approve of, that we're trying to validate? So often, as a consultant, a client will come to me and ask, what is your opinion on something? And the data analysis process gives us a tool to support or disprove our opinion, or perhaps alter slightly that client's expectation on what they can get out. And by analyzing data, by collecting and then evaluating the data, by analyzing it, we can show off and come to a conclusion that supports or disproves whatever that hypothesis or opinion in our case. Hypothesis is more of an academic term. In the professional world, I usually deal with opinions, or educated opinions. Data analysis is one way to do that. So as a professional, they're the two key criteria that I've really worked on in the past: the data collection, the data evaluation. But data management can also be, if your firm is involved in the continual analysis of this data, and this is something that I'm trying to move my consulting firm into, is to focus on the data management as well. Because often we've found that, say that client does come to us and they give us a set of data and they ask us to form our opinion based on that data. So we go through a collection and evaluation process. As professionals, we look at, well, what are the problems in the collection and how can we overcome those in evaluation? We make sure we're not falling afoul of the garbage in, garbage out. But that data set has come from the client or has been collected from other client bodies based on that client's requests. But what if that client comes to us in the future and again they give us another data set and again we go through the same process? Would that first data set have helped out in the second? And this is where we're trying to move to in the professional world, to make sure that we're engaging one client based on their data across many engagements, not just based on the latest one. So this is where data management comes in, how we organize and preserve our data. And there is some governance and security requirements around this to make sure that we're not to make sure that we're looking after our clients' data in accordance with their requirements and legislative requirements, and that we're cataloging our data appropriately. As there's no point just retaining all this information from different clients or different engagements with the same client and then not being able to use it again in the future. So how do you catalog or index or tag that information? And that's one of these areas of data literacy that can be improved, data management, by looking at how you're organizing your data and how you're storing it. Now, conceptual framework is the fourth one, and this isn't one that I've had too much experience with. So I was interested in what this graphic and what this paper presented about what a conceptual framework is. And my understanding is this is about having an understanding of the data, about being an introduction to data, about understanding what data is. Now, because I've sort of had that computer science degree bias, it's not something that's I'm too familiar with how to get started in. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, please leave a comment below. I'll do a bit more research and I'll put together a video about the basics of what data is. But in terms of a professional's perspective, I'd say that the key to understanding data would be making sure that I'd say collection and evaluation are probably more key than a conceptual framework. I'm not sure what that is, but this graphic from ResearchGate I thought captured it really well. Some of the things I've used in the past to explain, say, what data is to people might be that consider different measurements that you take over time. Something that you measure the change in over time, that's a set of data. So you've got a point of data that's the measurement, you've got a point and its corresponding time. And then you can track that over time for whatever you're measuring. And then you can come up with some summaries for it. Data is quite a vast topic. So if you are interested in that, please leave a comment and I'll see what I can do to help you out. But from a professional perspective, I'm certainly more focused on the collection, evaluation, management, and application, the other key areas of this data literacy competencies. And the application of data then being the last one is about how we, across our organization, work with that data. So I gave the example before about how the client will come to us with one data set and one evaluation goes back to them. And then how we're trying to change as an organization to save and manage that data so that the next time that same client comes to us, we have a data set that we can add on to the next one that they gave us, and we can give them a more informed opinion on whatever they ask for. But application could be more about how we, across our organization, manage the data of different clients to come up with different opinions, different information, different insights and value that we can offer the client, perhaps even before they've come to us. Now, within this application, there is, of course, ethics is one of the things that they pointed out there, because it can be ethically unsuitable to share information about clients with other clients. We need to make sure that there's governance and security around those sorts of things, that and that we're really thinking critically about these things, because it may not help. So that's the sort of thing that can be resolved by data application, and the sort of things to look into if you're interested in improving your competency in that area. If you're interested in more details on any of these areas and how I've tried to improve over these competencies, the most work I've done is in the collection, the evaluation, but if you're interested in more, please leave a comment down below and it'll help me understand what videos you like to see. And hopefully that gives you a good idea of the areas of data literacy, the competencies of data literacy that you can do to improve yourself. My name's Chris, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.